Part 73. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 725. At this time, if anyone walks into the study, they will see a very fragrant scene. Her Royal Highness, the incomparably noble eldest daughter of the Qing Kingdom, a resolute, tough-minded, iron-blooded and magical woman full of royal majesty, was currently lying on her side on a man, one person caressing the man's face while being kissed deeply by the man. Jade neck. Waves of sultry sounds came from the lips of the eldest princess. Your Highness, you look drunk. Shen Jian chuckled. From the jade neck to the earlobes, and then to the back. The palm is not honest either. He began to fumble around on this plain blue dress, studying the fabric of this dress carefully. Make people linger. If I could kiss the delicate body of Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, one of the most noble women in the Qing Kingdom, no, just from a close distance and giving her a look, how many young princes and common people in the Qing Kingdom would be willing to sacrifice their lives? There really should be that saying, die under peonies, and be a ghost is also romantic. And now, the eldest princess, who was haunted by dreams, was letting him play with her wantonly. If I tell you, I don't know how many young masters will beat their chests, curse, and commit suicide by jumping into the river. Then why aren't you drunk? Princess Milan followed Shen Jian's words. At this time, it was difficult for her to have the mind to think about business anymore, because a certain magical hand was measuring her body, making her thoughts seem to be empty. It was an indescribable and wonderful feeling. She seemed to suddenly understand that as a woman, besides power, calculation, and status, there were other things that fascinated her. The experience brought about by this wonderful feeling is no less intoxicating than the intoxication brought about by her becoming more powerful in the court. Your Highness, you are my drunken immortal brew. You will get drunk after just one sip. Yeah, then I'll let you taste it to see if you're drunk. Princess Milan sat astride Shen Jian, and a certain touch on her legs made Shen Jian feel an unknown fire in his heart, and he felt that the blood all over his body was boiling. Now, Princess Milan, who was sitting astride her, was a little taller than Shen Jian. She stared at Shen Jian with a red face, staring at this bold and shameless man who dared to be frivolous to her. And because of her movements, Shen's loose pajamas were partially removed, revealing his semi-naked chest. Looking at the perfect muscle lines like the golden ratio and the faintly visible abdominal muscles, the eldest princess couldn't help but stretched out her soft and boneless hands to touch them. As soon as he touched it, he subconsciously took it back. The next second, she tried touching it a few more times. Finally placed it directly on top. Then, with the atmosphere rising, she lowered her head and kissed Shen Jian on her own initiative. She wanted Shen Jian to taste whether her drunken immortal brew could make him drunk. See this. Shen Jian will naturally not be polite. He also put his arms around the eldest princess's slender waist and responded enthusiastically. Fox Fairy? See this scene. The fox fairy who was forgotten aside was confused. No. What's going on with you? Doing this in front of me? Damn it. What's special about me is that I look a little small, but I'm not young. The history of my existence can be traced back to the founding of Daking. In front of me, let alone you, even the emperor of your Qing kingdom is considered a junior in front of me. And now, you are openly fighting in front of me, an old antique. Gan. It's a bit disrespectful to me, an old antique. Do you really think that fox fairies have no temper? The fox fairy was furious. The two little tiger teeth gnashed loudly. I wish I could bite the dog man and woman in front of me to death. This movement was naturally heard by Her Royal Highness the Princess. She woke up like a frightened bird, and glanced at the little white fox with two peach-colored eyes that shrank slightly and a resentful expression, and her little face was immediately filled with clouds of clouds. Oh my God! What on earth was she doing just now? In front of outsiders, he openly tore up royal etiquette and acted shamelessly. Your Highness, ignore her, she doesn't understand anything and is a fool. Shen Jian pushed the fox fairy in disgust and pushed him off the table. I plan to have a bigger relationship breakthrough based on the atmosphere just now. She is a ghost after all. You disrespect her so much. Princess Milan let out a squeak. Blushing, he took the initiative to get down from the gym. Now he just moves his hands and mouth, but later he won't know what this man wants to do. She has already lost territory above, but she doesn't want to lose any more territory. Even if it were to fall, it shouldn't be here, and it shouldn't be in such a scene. She is too blind. She should have been kicked out just now. Shen Jian curled his lips. The atmosphere was so heated that I forgot about this little fox fairy. However, the environment at that time was indeed not suitable for capturing the eldest princess. For such a respected eldest daughter of the emperor, the highest standards should be given to her, and it would be appropriate to win her in the most emotional and unreserved scene. Otherwise it is always a pity. Okay, it took too long. I have to go back. Otherwise, if I am discovered, those people will use these flaws to attack me. The eldest princess tidied her clothes. It took another long time to recover from the ambiguous and emotional atmosphere just now, and return to the cold temperament and majesty of Her Royal Highness the Princess of Daking. At this time, Shen Jian seemed to have remembered something and asked, will there be any big banquet in Qingguo in 5 days? Something like a birthday banquet or a wedding banquet. He didn't forget. The last clue to the dragon's energy lies in a banquet 5 days later. At that time, he will follow the direction and find the owner of the last dragon's energy. 5 days from now. The eldest princess groaned. You mean the 60th birthday of the Prime Minister? Shen Jian was startled. There was some emotion in his eyes. I see. He finally knew why he went to this party. It turned out to be the 60th birthday of the father of the Vice Minister's wife. The birthday banquet of a current Prime Minister must be a grand event. All the famous and powerful families in the imperial capital, as well as civil and military officials, will go to congratulate them. Even the prince will probably be present. After all, if you can win over this Prime Minister, it will be equivalent to winning half of the battle for the right to inherit the throne. No one will be tempted by this kind of temptation. In other words, this dragon energy host is hiding in the imperial capital? So what happened to the so-called Jade City Hudishan? According to what Fox Fairy said, Hudu Mountain should be a bandit's den, and it is far away from the capital. As his thoughts turned around, Shen Jian nodded, I understand. It's just right to take advantage of this 60th birthday to have a chat with the Prime Minister so that we can complete your instructions, His Highness. Huh, don't be kicked out then. I'm not here, so you can take care of it yourself. Also, you can help me bring gifts that day. It just saves a step. You're not going. I can't go. Ever since I got out of prison, I have become a thorn in the side of others. If I continue to act in a high-profile manner, the already sensitive princes will also regard me as a threat. What I need now is to lie dormant and wait for the opportunity. Princess Milan sighed. She didn't want to win over the Prime Minister openly, but she couldn't. For a prince to see her as a threat was enough to give her a headache. If all the princes who are preparing to seize the heir are like this, then her situation will be too dangerous. There will always be those who are not afraid of death and dare to try to kill her. Even if she is not afraid, there will be accidents if there are too many. It is easy to hide from an open gun, but difficult to guard against a hidden arrow. That's the truth. Shen Jian nodded. Not long after, the eldest princess left. Shen Jian sat on the chair, thinking a lot. It can be said that it is very difficult for the eldest princess to seize the throne and even ascend the throne as a daughter. Normally, if a prince can obtain the support of 2 of the 6 departments, coupled with overt and covert informants and influence, as well as the help of a prime minister of the dynasty, he has basically locked in the position of prince. No one can shake it. However, to become a princess in the form of a girl, it would only be possible if the officials from the 6 ministries and the entire court were supported by civil and military officials. Even so, Emperor Qing still needs to nod before he can sit on the throne of prince. Otherwise, even if the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty agree, they may not be able to sit on it 100%. But now, he already knows that Emperor Qing's goal may not be to develop and strengthen the Qing kingdom, but to plan to destroy his own country bit by bit. In this case, Emperor Qing becomes dispensable. As long as the situation in the court is stabilized, Emperor Qing can die. But stabilizing the situation in the court is also a slow project. Officials from the 6th ministry are not that easy to win over. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes narrowed. He knew the simplest way. Don't the Ministry of Household Affairs, the Ministry of Rights, and the Ministry of Industry each support a prince? He only needs to eliminate these princes, and the eldest princess will naturally not miss this opportunity. And this simple and crude method has quick results. No one would know that a secret guard under the eldest princess could eliminate the forces of several princes one after another. The more I think about it, Shen Jianyu felt that this method was perfect. In a few days, he would collect the forces these princes relied on to see if they could all be destroyed. Just thinking about it, the fox fairy who was pushed off the desk struggled to climb up the table. Nunu said, "Are you helping her seize the throne? She has no hope." Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. "What do you see?" "I see that her luck is dark. If this happens, it means that she will die soon, and she does not have the purple energy to seize the throne. Although she has strength, luck is not on her side. No matter how she tries, she will never succeed. Don't believe it, I have met many people in this situation before, and all of them died without exception." Shen Jian was slightly surprised in his eyes. This was the first time he heard this statement. This little fox fairy, who else has the luck to succeed? Is there no hope of seizing the throne? Shen Jian murmured. "Yeah, she's dying. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I take the throne or not. It only depends on me. Whoever I want to take the throne can take the throne. If I don't want to, no one can take the throne." Shen Jian grinned. Seeing this, the fox fairy looked at the man a few more times. This man's meaning is very obvious. If he doesn't like the candidate for the throne, then he will change it until he is satisfied. But as she watched, she suddenly remembered something, her expression became angry, and she gritted her teeth and said, "You just said that I don't understand those things. I'm older than King Guo, why do you look down on me?" Shen Jian glanced at her. "Since you understand, you still dare to interrupt my good deeds. How about you help me now?" "I don't mind." Shen Jian pointed under the table. The fox fairy was startled. "Look away." The white fox tail swayed immediately. Not knowing whether he was angry or annoyed, he jumped out from the window sill. "You, shameless, dirty man. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace." Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 726. Death Row. This is the player's 7th day in jail. It's been a week, porridge and whole wheat baguettes every day. We, who are called senior players, won't just stay like this until the mission is over and usher in failure, right? A player lies on his side on the wall, minimizing the range of movement, keeping himself in a hibernation-like state, and reducing energy consumption. Although they are ghost masters and 4-star players who have controlled the puzzle of 3 powerful ghosts, they are still humans. As humans, they need to eat and take in nutrients to maintain a strong mental state. But while on death row, they only had 1 meal a day. I was in a state of semi-starvation every day. Coupled with the environment of the prison itself and the situation surrounded by ghosts, even the most ambitious people will find it difficult to adapt. One can imagine the mental state. There will be a chance. It's impossible for a thriller game to not give any chance at all. It's just that the time has not come yet. In other words, we didn't grasp the first opportunity. If we want to wait for another opportunity, it will naturally take longer. The sinister man with the ID of Sky Snake opened his mouth and said. There was a fierce ghost living in the depths of his eyes, making his eyes look very cold, as if being watched by a ghost, flashing 2 completely different styles of madness and reason. His eyes fell on the only 5-star player King Quan at the scene most of the time, but after seeing the inaction attitude of the number 1 person in the Dragon Kingdom's supernatural circle, he converged his eyes without leaving any trace. It seems that he can't guess what the other person is thinking. As soon as the sentence came out, the players were speechless. Tianxi obviously meant that the first chance of escaping from death row lay with the emperor's eldest daughter. The other party was a member of the royal family who had appeared on death row 3 days ago. It also has the ability to give players the ability to escape from death row. Only if you choose to ask for help from an emperor who is not the eldest daughter of the 9 legitimate sons, you will have to join a hopeless lineup in the future. The players present are experienced ghost masters who have experienced dozens of dungeons and experienced countless dangers. How can you place your hopes on a character who is 100% sure to be eliminated? What do you think that Yama is thinking? It's been a week and there's been no news from him. It's like he's lost contact. I really don't know what he's thinking. 5-star players are all so unique. Challenge a copy alone. Another player couldn't bear his curiosity and asked in confusion. There was also a bit of schadenfreude, or a touch of hostility, in the voice. After all, Shen Jian has already chosen the lineup of the emperor's eldest daughter, and according to their understanding, the emperor's eldest daughter is also quite prestigious in the Qing kingdom, and she is obviously interested in seizing the heir. In other words, Shen Jian has become their competitor. To put it cruelly, that is their enemy. Attacking potential opponents in advance and wooing the player lineup is every player's specialty. Tisk, that's the arrogance of a 5-star player. After all, he is one of the only 5-star players in the Dragon Kingdom. Perhaps he feels that we are a burden and is unwilling to be with us, or he is too conceited and feels that as a modern man in a dynasty with such an ancient background, he can rely on wisdom and strategy too, as well as various proven methods, turning hands into clouds and turning hands into rain in Kingguo. Tisk, he underestimated the 5-star dungeon too much. How can one person's wisdom compare to the strategies of collective players? How can he understand ancient history better than all of us? Probably the praise he received from the paranormal forum made him feel that he had reached heaven, and his confidence had turned into overconfidence. Praising and killing is the best way to destroy a person. All the players started talking among themselves. They all felt that Shen Jian was too conceited and was about to fall into disrepair. In the real world, if you stumble, you'll have to start all over again. But in a 5-star dungeon of a thriller game, falling down means losing, and losing in a thriller game means death. Choosing the emperor's eldest daughter was definitely the worst decision he had ever made in his life. Hotly discussed. There was a sound from outside. It was the jailer who was leading several men in black to inspect the cells. The man in black glanced around. The voice said coldly, "We are night-wandering gods. I believe you also know what we are here to do. I can tell you that we received an order from the third prince. He needs a group of death row prisoners to complete a task. Those who can come back alive will be if you can escape from here and become a secret guard under the third prince. Whoever wants to do so can stand up on his own. Hear this. There was an uproar in the cell immediately. All the players were shocked. Coming. An opportunity to escape death row. And he is one of the most promising princes to win the throne. Although they also heard that the third prince was violent by nature, it was often such a person who could best put aside the so-called brotherhood, kill the king and brother, and rise to the throne from the corpses. Historically, such people are not uncommon. Immediately. Many players are excited. Stood up. 9, it's a little less, but it's still enough. The man in black shouted coldly, remember, this is your only chance. Don't think about escaping later. Unless you can run out of Kingwo, otherwise I will never be able to escape Kingwo's side for the rest of my life. Not long after, the 9 selected players are taken out of their cells. Before leaving, they glanced at the 10 indifferent players on the field, wondering what they were thinking. There was weariness, fear, and regret in his eyes. Because among the remaining 10 players, there is not only King Quan, a 5-star player, but also Sky Snake and Sky Tiger, 2 top players who are close to level 60. Don't they think highly of the third prince? If the third prince can't do it, the answer is already very obvious. This group chose the prince. From today on, they are competitors. The prince's lineup vs the 3 princes lineup. As for the eldest daughter of the emperor, the 13th prince, and other princes who have taken the throne, it can be basically concluded that they are the targets of elimination. The only difference is when they are eliminated. The other side. In the blink of an eye. Another few days passed. These days, Shen Jian's life is divided into 2 parts. In the morning, he went to Prince Jin's mansion to guide the 13th prince, and then communicated with the queen to establish a relationship. During this period, he once again came into contact with the most noble woman in the Qing kingdom. It's still a regular massage. The difference is that this time he injected more yin qi. Let the yin energy flow freely in the queen's body, especially focusing on the lower abdomen and other places, stirring the acupuncture points in these places. Just 2 massages caused some subtle reactions in the queen's body. But this is not enough. This reaction didn't even allow the queen to get up late at night to trim her nails and wash her hands. More renovations are needed. Thinking. The fox fairy on his shoulder scratched Shen Jian's neck with his fox tail and said in confusion, I'm a little confused. Did you choose the eldest daughter of the emperor or the 13th prince? What do you think? If it were me, I would definitely choose the 13th prince. Why? There is purple energy in his luck bar. He has a clear possibility of sitting on the throne, and the possibility is not low. If there are no accidents, the final throne will probably be his. The fox fairy told everything he saw. The tone is mysterious. Hear the words. There was a bit of surprise in Shen Jian's eyes. The 13th prince is the final winner? He really hadn't thought about this answer. In his opinion, he would not feel anything wrong whether it was the crown prince, the third prince, or the eldest princess Sheng. Only this 13th prince Sheng made him feel that something was wrong. Judging from the information he currently has, although the 13th prince is supported by the Ministry of Rights, one of the 6 departments, he is not impressed by the 13th prince's magnanimity, but because the Minister of Rights is the head of the Zantai family and also the head of the Zantai family. The father of Empress Zhan Taimingjing. The 13th prince is the grandson of the Zantai family, so he will receive the full support of the Ministry of Rights. In terms of personal charm, what charm can a 10-year-old have? The only thing Shen Jian could think of for the 13th prince to win and sit on the throne was that someone interfered with the outcome. And this person can only be Emperor Cheng. The emperor could not participate in the battle for the right to inherit the throne, nor could he take sides. But that doesn't mean that the emperor can't participate. After all, he was the strongest man in the Qing kingdom, a legendary world-destroying ghost and god. If he favored any prince, then the members of the imperial court would favor that prince. Think of this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Is letting the baseless 13th prince sit on the throne one of the steps to destroy the Qing kingdom? But why did Emperor Qing go to such trouble? What else did you see? Shen Jian asked again. I saw that after the 13th prince's luck reached its peak one day, it began to decline rapidly, and finally turned completely dark. This means that he died not long after he ascended the throne. Fox Fairy whispered. Do you know what time it is? I'm not sure. I can only look at the specific time within a month. After that, the time is uncertain. But according to my year-round verification, this time point is roughly within 10 years. Shen Jian said nothing. Just a slight nod. 10 years is not a long time. This also means that the battle for the right to inherit the throne will not last long. Judging from the time, Emperor Qing will definitely intervene in the outcome of this battle for the right to inherit the throne. It seems. He also had to hurry up and eliminate the other princes. With this thought, time soon came 5 days later. This day. It was the time when he found the last clue of dragon energy in the luck line seen by the Fox Fairy. It is also the 60th birthday of the Prime Minister of the Qing dynasty. In front of the Prime Minister's palace, there are people coming and going, and it is very lively. Every few minutes, you can see civil servants and generals who are famous in the court enter the mansion. Shen Jian was also among them. His identity is a close confidant of the Zhenhou mansion arranged by the eldest princess. Among a group of high-ranking officials, his presence seemed very inconspicuous. And he also deliberately blurred his appearance. When passing by others, they would think he seemed familiar, but as soon as he was out of sight, the other person's impression of him would be blurred, and in the end they would not be able to remember him at all. It's very convenient to use here. Enter the mansion. Shen Jian glanced around, feeling the clues of dragon energy. At this time, he saw a person. His eyes were withered, his hair seemed a little messy, and his face, which was obviously high-spirited, looked extremely haggard at this moment. Even the official uniform he was wearing couldn't support his decadence. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. It's the third-grade minister of the Ministry of Revenue. The direction of the other party seemed to be the inner courtyard of the Prime Minister's mansion. The people who live there are all the family members of the Prime Minister's mansion. According to the news he heard, a month or two ago, the Vice Minister's wife had returned to her natal family, which was the Prime Minister's mansion to live in, not the Vice Minister's mansion. In other words, the couple is now at the point where they are sleeping in separate homes. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. Think about it. He also followed. It may have been a long time since he had reminisced with the Vice Minister's wife, and they met on the bedside. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 727. Prime Minister's Office. The Inner Court. The minister came here with ease. As a third-rank minister of the Ministry of Hubyu, his status in the Qing dynasty court was very prominent. His wife was the daughter of the prime minister, his father-in-law was the prime minister of the dynasty, and he was located in the Hubyu, a wealthy family in charge of government affairs. Except for one Hubyu Shangshu, Hubyu was the prime minister. Basically he is the biggest. It can be said that he can get wind when he wants it, and rain when he wants it, and he has the same scenery. I don't know how many talented people from poor and humble backgrounds I envy. Yes. He comes from a poor family. The reason why he has climbed to his current position is entirely dependent on his having a prime minister father-in-law. According to human terms, he should be regarded as a male phoenix ghost. Because of this, he could never abandon the great mountain of his father-in-law and prime minister. At this time, along the way, a servant dressed as a boy accidentally bumped into the waiter. The waiter was about to get angry, but he heard the boy kneeling down to admit his mistake and making a cold voice. "His Highness is already disappointed with you. Don't forget that the reason why you are able to get close to the Prime Minister is because His Highness is working hard for you behind the scenes. Without the relationship with the Prime Minister, you will lose your role. When the time comes, we will take your it's up to you whether you want to deceive the Prime Minister's daughter or tell the truth about how you used your title as Prime Minister to abuse your power outside. His Highness means that the relationship with the Prime Minister's daughter must be restored to its original state at all costs. His Highness has been working hard on this line for more than 10 years, and there is no room for any mistakes. Hear this." The angry look on the minister's face suddenly froze. His whole body was trembling. He even showed a frightened expression. I understand. In fact, I came here today just for this matter. I will not affect His Highness's plans because of our relationship." The waiter was bumping into each other. Remember, no matter what method is used, the relationship between husband and wife must continue. When the time comes, you will not hesitate to kowtow and beg. Do you understand? No. Very good. Just remember the Lord to whom you are loyal. Your Highness is looking forward to good news from you. Yes. Soon. The two separated. The minister's pace became faster. And the boy quickly disappeared here. The other side. Shen Jian watched all this with interest. He was less than a meter behind the minister. Wrapping itself in a ghost realm creates an effect similar to invisibility. Naturally, he heard the conversation just now. Somewhat shocking. Unexpectedly, this minister turned out to be the person assigned by the prince. Listening to this meaning, the reason why the vice minister was favored by the vice minister's wife and became the son-in-law of the prime minister's mansion was because His Royal Highness the Crown Prince set up a trap behind the scenes, and his purpose was naturally to win over the prime minister through the vice minister. To this, Shen Jian clicked his tongue. After more than 10 years of planning, this prince is really patient. If the matter hadn't been too big in the past few months and had spread to the ears of many interested people, I'm afraid this servant who was placed in the prime minister's mansion would not have been used. I don't know how many undercover agents are hidden in the prime minister's mansion. Shen Jian was thoughtful. It seems like this. The prime minister's invitation to the banquet that night must have been conveyed to the prince through the minister. This is undoubtedly a huge handle. Once it is publicized by someone with ulterior motives, the news that the prime minister secretly convened to kill Prince Li's wanted criminal will spread in an instant. By then, the prime minister fell in just a moment. Thinking. Shen Jian withdrew his gaze and followed again. In front of a house. The minister came to his wife's house. Before he could enter the boudoir, he was stopped by the maid. "Uncle, the lady said she doesn't want to see you." "Where did you come from?" "Go back to where you came from." "Impossible, Ziru, please open the door and let's talk carefully. I know I was wrong. I have already divorced my 2 concubines. I was just confused for a while. Now I have changed." The minister stood in front of the door and kept explaining. The cold sweat on his forehead couldn't stop flowing out. Because of his accidental involvement in the Prince Li incident, His Highness the Crown Prince has decided to give up on him. Although he has washed away his grievances, his position as a third-grade minister has not been fully restored. And this requires his father-in-law to help him stand up openly, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince to help him secretly. No matter which one is missing, his reinstatement plan will not succeed. And because of this matter, His Royal Highness was already very unhappy. Otherwise, no one would be sent to warn him. If he was given up, he would be dead. Just thinking about it? The voice of the waiter's wife came from the boudoir. You deceived me, and I also deceived you about something. No one of us is right or wrong. Let's get together and part ways. You are the third-rank minister of the imperial court. You can choose a better one. Hear the words. The minister was even more frightened. He had no intention of thinking about his wife's words. I also deceived you about something. He only knew that the woman inside would kill him. Once he loses the relationship of Prime Minister, not to mention His Highness the Crown Prince will not let him go, nor will the civil and military officials he provoked based on his status in the past. This is not a good time to get together, this is clearly to let him die. Zairu, for the sake of our long-term relationship as husband and wife, give me a chance. I don't care if you lied to me. Even if you have someone outside, I can forget about it. How about we start over? The assistant minister stalked him. Of course he knew that his wife came from a scholarly family and had a noble status, so there was no such thing as someone outside, but he said this with the greatest sincerity. You see, I don't even mind when someone puts a hat like this on your head outside. It's enough to show that you are still my favorite. Lady of the Chamberlain. She said nothing. Because she really has someone outside. In her opinion, her husband first broke his previous promise to marry her only, and she also betrayed her husband. Although there was a reason for it at the time, betrayal is betrayal. And what she couldn't argue with was that she did fall in love with another man. Thus, it's just a good time for them to get together and relax. But who knows, the husband is unwilling to die. Hey, where have you been? Why haven't you shown up yet? Don't worry. The waiter's wife ignored her husband outside and murmured to herself. She was worried about Shen Jian's condition. Since the night of the banquet, Shen Jian disappeared. According to her father, while Shen Jian helped her clear her name and rescued her, he also put himself in danger of death. He was listed as the most wanted criminal in the Qing Kingdom and was wanted by the entire Qing Kingdom. It is possible that you will need to remain anonymous for the rest of your life. Now, there has been no sign of it for months. What? Didn't your husband say that it doesn't matter if you have someone outside? Why don't you tell him? At this time, Shen Jian's voice sounded in the boudoir. Then the figure emerged. He looked at the lady in front of him with a raised eyebrow. The handsome woman is wearing a noble purple dress, with her black hair curled behind her head, highlighting her identity as a married woman. Her graceful figure is graceful and moving, and her proud capital supports her thin figure. Judging from her figure alone, the Vice Minister's wife is definitely a rare beauty. According to Her Royal Highness the eldest princess, one of Emperor Qing's former candidates for the queen was the wife of the Vice Minister, but she was crossed out because she had found her partner in advance. In other words, if she had not married the minister, it is still unclear who the queen is today. One can imagine how beautiful the Vice Minister's wife is. Detected movement. The waiter's wife subconsciously exclaimed. Shen Jian stepped forward. Covered her mouth. Let her see her appearance clearly. As expected. After seeing Shen Jian's appearance clearly, the Vice Minister's wife stopped screaming, tears brewing on her delicate face. Are you okay? You can actually hide in the Prime Minister's mansion. I'll beg my father not to drive you away. You can stay in my villa and you won't be exposed. Her voice was delicate, and her eyes revealed a bit of sadness. There was a bit of pleading in his tone. It seemed that he was afraid that Shen Jian would disappear again. See this. Shen Jian's eyes moved. Mrs. Lu Xianggru. Current status, surprise, fear, pleading. Favorability, 105, extreme love. See this. There was something strange in Shen Jian's eyes. He knew that the vice minister's wife had a high opinion of him, but he didn't expect it to be over 100 points. This has gone beyond the ordinary relationship between husband and wife. Not only do they fit in physically, but they also fit in mentally. It is possible to achieve more than 100 points of favorability only by maximizing platonic spiritual love and piquing sensual desire. I'm not so fragile that I need a woman to protect me. Shen Jian's voice was gentle, wiping the tear ducts flowing from her eyes. The atmosphere is just right. However, right now, the voice of the minister came from outside the door again. Xiru, what's wrong with you? Did something happen? The exclamation just now still attracted his attention. Hear the words. The waiter's wife was a little panicked. He looked at Shen Jian, as if he was afraid of being misunderstood by Shen Jian. Shen Jian's lips curled up. Glancing at the closed door and the minister standing at the door, the strange look in his eyes deepened. He leaned over and whispered in the ear of the waiter's wife, "Madam, I just asked a question, but you haven't answered me yet. Didn't your husband just say that he didn't mind if you had someone outside?" Said. Shen Jian bit her delicate earlobe, and then moved all the way to her red lips. Moment. The waiter's wife felt as if she had been struck by lightning. His face was so red that he seemed to be bleeding. "Don't, he's still out there. Madam, at the last banquet, you fed me wine in front of your husband, and now you're still doing it through the door." Shen Jian's devilish words swirled in her ears. She could clearly feel that her body was covered by a warm magic hand, which was tugging at her heartstrings and making her emotional. And she couldn't resist this feeling. She couldn't stop trembling every time she thought about her husband in name standing outside while she was being kissed by other men and occupying her husband's territory. That kind of complex feeling mixed with excitement, fear, ambivalence and other emotions. Let her sink in. Willing to perish. I don't care. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 728. Outside the house. The minister was kneeling outside the door, crying and pleading. Anyone who sees the once famous and prestigious third-grade Minister of Household Affairs weeping bitterly will feel that this person is indeed affectionate and has realized his mistake. Otherwise, why would he kneel outside the door and admit his mistake? And in the eyes of the minister, the supplication is true, the confession is true, but the purpose is false. He cannot lose the line of Prime Minister. Otherwise, His Royal Highness will definitely kill him. To this end, even if he had to give up his dignity as a man, he would not hesitate. As long as his wife is soft-hearted and opens the door today, he will have half the success, and the rest will just fall into place. With the experience of being discovered last time, he will never make the same mistake again this time. Even if he wants a woman, he will hide it in a place where his wife will never find it. Just thinking about it? The minister noticed that in front of his wife's boudoir, there was a faint shadow standing at the door, seeming to be watching him through a door. See this? He was overjoyed. The wife's boudoir is of course only the wife. Then who is the shadow standing at the door? His strategy was correct. After begging for mercy in this almost humiliating way, the wife really softened her heart. But the excited minister looked at the shadow on the door with some suspicion. He always felt that the figure of this shadow seemed too bloated. With his wife's body shape, the shadow on the door should not be so strong. It feels like there are two people stacked on top of each other. But then I thought about it. He dismissed this concern. How can this be? He understood his wife, there was no such thing as a lover. Not to mention daring to mess around in the room with her lover in front of him. What is he thinking about? As for the shadow on the door, it should be the distortion effect caused by the light. With this thought, the minister knew that he needed to pursue the victory and let his wife open the door by herself. In this way, the matter of him keeping a concubine would basically be over. Then, he continued to kneel, moved a few steps, put his hand on the door, and continued to beg, saying continuously, "Zairu, I really know that I was wrong, and I will do anything for you. If you feel uncomfortable, you can hit me or scold me. I can even stop working as an official in the court for you. In this way, we can be together every day and never be separated again." As the minister spoke, he confessed affectionately. But there has been no response. However, he noticed that the door vibrated slightly. It was like someone was knocking on the door. He imagined that he was confessing affectionately outside the door and reminiscing about the past, while his wife was standing at the door, listening to his voice and recalling past experiences. Her eyes were red with tears and her little hands were gently hammering the door. While venting his grievances, he made an inner decision. That's right. That's it. This is what caused the vibration on the door. Immediately, he continued speaking, becoming more confident as he spoke. Not long after, the famous experiment in physics, the Newton's pendulum ball impact theory, is over. The waiter's wife's face turned red and she adjusted her clothes. At this time, it was too late for her to clean up. He looked at Shen Jian angrily. "You are too bad. He has not offended you for anything. Why should you treat him like this? I think he is very sincere. He is actually a third-grade minister in the court, and he is actually willing to kneel down and apologize." There was no nostalgia in her tone for her husband, and her words were mostly filled with emotion. She even felt that if Shen Jian hadn't appeared, even if she later found out that her husband was cheating on her and keeping a concubine outside, she might have given him another chance given her husband's sincere attitude. Hear the words. Shen Jian thought for a while. He relayed what he heard before coming to the waiter's wife. A few minutes later, the rosy and intoxicating face of the chambermaid's wife turned pale. False. He has been lying to me? Is he an undercover agent placed by the prince next to my father? Shen Jian said casually, "You can't even call him an undercover agent. He's just a pawn. All he did was get your father's support. As long as this relationship doesn't break down, no one will know his identity until he dies." The waiter's wife did not refute. She did not doubt that Shen Jian was fabricating facts. "It's just that I can't accept it." To a certain extent, she feels guilty towards her husband. But now, the guilt is gone. Instead, there was shuddering. She couldn't imagine that her man had always been wearing a second face without revealing any flaws. Even her father didn't notice anything was wrong. It's really hidden too deep. If it weren't for Shen Jian today, she might never have the chance to know all this. Shen Jian continued, "Your top priority is to find out the undercover agents in the mansion as soon as possible, and keep an eye on those who should be removed, and those who should be monitored. Also, the prince should also know about the banquet that night. Your father, the situation is dangerous. Once your father chooses other party members besides the prince, I'm afraid this memorial will be handed over. At that time, Emperor Qing will be furious. Your father will be dismissed from his official position and sent to prison, and the whole family will be affected at worst. Exile." Hear this. The waiter's wife's face turned even paler. His body shape was even more shaky. Because she is the culprit. If she hadn't chosen her current husband because of her poor knowledge of people, her father would never have left such a big clue for the prince. This is basically controlling her father's life and death. The fact that this trump card is not used now is not because the prince is kind, but because the time has not come yet. So what should I do now? There is me. Shen Jian took the hand of the vice minister's wife with a profound expression. The waiter's wife also looked at Shen Jian, and after hearing this man's assurance to her, she believed it. It's not that she trusts others easily, but that person is Shen Jian. He was the man who, in order to save her, even killed Prince Li in public to clear her grievances. What woman wouldn't be moved by such behavior? She believed Shen Jian's words unconditionally. I trust you. There was spring in the delicate eyes of the vice minister's wife. But she knew the time was not right. It took a lot of effort for the boss to suppress a certain impulse. Then he said seriously, I believe you, but you must also promise me that you can no longer use such reckless methods, and you can't even think about killing the prince. Shen Jian. Not to mention, he really had this idea. Huh? Have you really thought about it? Seeing Shen Jian's appearance, the vice minister's wife's eyes widened, and she couldn't help but wonder what was going on in this man's mind, that he had such treacherous thoughts. Forget about killing the prince. The prince is the foundation of a country and the future emperor. Even if he is falling out of favor now, he is still the crown prince. Killing the prince would really turn the Qing kingdom upside down. Don't worry, I will take care of it. Shen Jian was non-committal. He took the waiter's wife's hand and walked out of the room. As for the minister, he had left more than 10 minutes ago. He said it was to give his wife some time to think. The birthday banquet is still going on steadily. Especially the appearance of the minister's wife pushed this birthday banquet to another peak. Now everyone in the Qing kingdom knows that there is a relationship problem between the minister's wife and her husband, and she has returned to her parents' home. To outsiders, this is completely a sign of preparation for divorce. Some people with ulterior motives have secretly been thinking about this beautiful lady. If nothing else, just being able to connect with the prime minister of the dynasty is worth a lot of people. This is the Sunshine Avenue that will save 50 years of detours. At the same time, Shen Jian's eyes scanned the crowd. This time, he finally sensed a weak dragon energy reaction. Look away. It was a very successful business. It looks unremarkable. Shen Jian's eyes moved slightly. The dragon energy on this ghost is very light. This is not like the scale that a dragon energy host should have, but it is contaminated by being close to the dragon energy host all year round. As the host of dragon energy, his luck not only benefits himself, but also those around him. This is the case with this business. He does not have dragon energy in him, but he knows and gets very close to the host of dragon energy. Think about it. Shen Jian found the waiter's wife. Inquire about this business information. Let me see, that person, he came with the gift boy beside the third prince. The third prince's people? Based on the information he knew so far, he could basically conclude that this traitor should come from Hudishan, the Jade City mentioned by the Fox Fairy, and he was a gangster. And this gangster belongs to the third prince. A strange smile flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. He seemed to know why he wanted to destroy the village. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 729. Looking at the merchant he had targeted, Shen Jian's eyes revealed an indescribable weirdness. According to the fortune that the Fox Fairy saw, he will find clues about the last dragon's energy at the Prime Minister's birthday banquet 5 days later. After that, he will go to Hutu Mountain in Jade City to destroy the local bandits' stronghold. Get the 7th dragon energy. But now, he discovered that these gangsters were actually related to the third prince. Combined with the battle for the air, he could roughly guess that Hutu Mountain should be the secret base of the third prince. The other party is recruiting troops and secretly cultivating power. What is most lacking in training soldiers and horses? Weapons, food. What does the Ministry of Industry, one of the 6 ministries, do? Part of the business is manufacturing weapons. The Ministry of Industry chose to support the third prince in seizing the heir apparent. He did not believe that the third prince could bear not to profit from this temptation. Although the Qing kingdom does not ban supernatural items such as ghost weapons from entering the market like human dynasties, it secretly uses the resources of the Ministry of Industry to cultivate its own private army. How is this different from rebellion? Once he is stabbed out, the third prince will be finished. Think of this. Shen Jian smiled. The smile was very weird. He ignored the clue that came to his door. As long as they make a big noise, destroy Hutu Mountain, and alert the local city lord, those monkey-minded civil and military ministers will naturally discover the collusion between the third prince and the Ministry of Industry. By then, the downfall of the third prince was inevitable. And Emperor Qing needed an emperor who had no effect on Qing to come to power, so he chose the 13th prince who had little foundation. Faced with the downfall of the third prince, he would not stop him. It can be said that no one will defend the third prince's downfall. What bad idea are you planning? Do you know that person? The waiter's wife asked curiously. That's right. He belongs to the third prince. I have a handle on him. His downfall will only depend on when I have time. Shen Jian's lips curled up. There is no need to hide it. Destroy the third prince. Are you involved in the fight for the right to inherit the throne? The waiter's wife was startled. Then his face changed slightly. At this point in time, the advantage between the princes is not very huge. If they make the wrong choice, the consequences will be disastrous. It was for this reason that her father had been reluctant to express his opinion. One wrong step, and it could be an abyss. Shen Jian nodded. Who did you choose? This is no joke. Of course I choose the one who has the best chance of winning the heir. The most promising? That's not the prince. Speaking of which. The waiter's wife gave a sharp meal. Then he shook his head. Wrong. It can be seen from what Shen Jian said to her before that the prince was not the one he chose. In addition, one of the most promising candidates for the throne, the third prince, Shen Jian, is also planning to destroy him. Then there was only one 13th prince left. But that little brat is not worthy of this man's help. It's out of the question. Then who did he say was the most promising candidate for the throne? Who else has the qualifications to compete with these princes? At once, the waiter's wife thought of a name. Her Royal Highness the Princess. That's right. She is the eldest daughter of the Qing Kingdom royal family. The eldest princess's ability was somewhat stronger than that of the prince, but just because she was a woman, she was subconsciously excluded. More importantly, she knew that Shen Jian knew the eldest princess. When she was in prison, she also saw Shen Jian often entering and leaving cell number 1, and cell number 1 was none other than the eldest princess. You chose Her Royal Highness the eldest princess? Are you crazy? Do you know how difficult it is for a woman to ascend the throne? My father once said that if Her Royal Highness the eldest princess was a man, he wouldn't have to be so entangled. You know this. What do you mean? The waiter's wife lowered her voice and grabbed Shen Jian's wrist. Her tone seemed very urgent. Shen Jian nodded slightly. Show that you know the difficulty. Then you bad boy, even if you want to seduce the eldest princess, there is no need to hook up with you. Hear this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows slightly. For the sake of my wife, I am also willing to defeat the prince so that your father will no longer have any worries. The waiter's wife was a little moved, but also knew that she could not persuade this man. He could only purse his lips and say, I will ask my father to talk to you after the birthday banquet is over. If the eldest princess wants to ascend to the throne, my father's support is indispensable. Are you ready to use your mother's family's resources to give back to your husband's family so soon? Which husband's family? Who is your wife? You are just a bad guy who takes advantage of others. The wife of the assistant minister spat at Shen Jian in a coquettish way, with a hint of disgust in her delicate eyes. However, she still had a charming smile on her face when she heard that Shen Jian was willing to break the prince's promise for her. This smile. It immediately attracted the attention of many people. All the guests looked at this mature and beautiful girl, chatting happily with a man whose face could not be seen clearly, and smiling like this. They were all filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred, and their teeth were about to break. You are so special, you are such a secretive person, you dare to pick up a married woman in front of so many of us, you are degrading to gentlemen, you are simply a beast, etc. It seems that because of this, the other party needs to hide his head and show his tail. The thought of this. The guests were even more angry. Damn it! Why didn't we think of contacting us in this way? Obviously now is the most suitable time to take advantage of the situation. Then. They figured it out. They are too shameless. I feel that even if I have ulterior motives, I still have to contact them secretly. And this bastard who killed 1,000 swords has no face. Don't show his face. They really want to know who this hanging man is. The other side. The deputy minister also saw this scene. In fact, he had already paid attention to Shen Jian from the moment he started to contact his wife. He clearly saw that the man didn't know what he said, but his wife was holding his hand nervously. Do they know each other? When did you meet? Why didn't he know? Who is he? A series of confusions appeared in his mind. It made his face turn green. Especially the looks from others made his face distort. After all, so far, he is still the son-in-law of the Prime Minister's office. But now, in public, his wife grabbed another man's wrist and showed such a charming smile. I'm afraid no man can accept this. He wanted to stop it. As soon as he stepped forward, he paused. His face became cloudy and uncertain. Because he thought that he had not yet fully obtained his wife's forgiveness. If he disturbed his wife again, or even caused any impact in public, she might not accept him anymore. Therefore, he hesitated. After this hesitation, I no longer dared to take a step forward. He could only watch helplessly as his wife showed such a seductive look to another man, while he himself suffered the strange looks from other guests. He could almost imagine what this group of people would think. His wife interacted with others at such a close distance, and he didn't care whether he was green. After enduring the strange looks for several hours, the birthday banquet was finally over. The minister almost fled in the image of a green slave. It can be described as a loss of face. And for all this, Shen Jian ignored it. Not long after the birthday banquet ended, he came to the separate study room and met the protagonist of the birthday banquet, the current prime minister. Shen Jian showed his true appearance for the first time. Prime Minister Ghost stood up immediately. Is it you? Is it you who seduced my daughter and caused these rumors? He was a little shocked and surprised by Shen Jian's appearance. But I immediately thought of other things. He looked at Shen Jian with an unkind expression. He knew more information, such as, the reason why his daughter came back here was that besides her husband cheating on her, she was also thinking about someone else. Such a state of not thinking about the tea and the delicious food is clearly like seeing things and missing people. It is precisely because of Shen Jian that the Prime Minister's office has been the source of the scandals in the past few months. The minister is not a good match. But, then you, the person who seduces married women and steals their love, are a good match. Prime Minister Ghost spat. Shen Jian. Those who are riding horses cannot refute these words. Think about it. Shen Jian changed the subject and told the story that the minister was the prince's pawn. The atmosphere in the room fell into dead silence. It took a while. The Prime Minister Ghost said slowly, then who do you represent, the eldest princess? Do you also want to use this matter to blackmail me into joining the princess lineup? His words seemed extremely gloomy. Shen Jian looked normal, with a strange expression on his face. There was a bit of disgust in his eyes, as if to say, you think too highly of yourself. Prime Minister Ghost. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. As the Prime Minister of the dynasty, can't he still have this kind of confidence? After briefly adjusting his mood, he asked, "Then what are you doing here?" "I just don't want your daughter to continue to worry, so I'm here to tell you. Keep the prince under control during this period, and I will resolve the matter soon," old Shen Jian said. "As for whether to join Her Royal Highness the eldest princess, you will, because at that time, the entire court will only be loyal to the eldest princess, and it won't work if you don't join. Say it." Shen Jian turned and left. The ghost of the Prime Minister is sitting in the study. Carefully recall the last words Shen Jian said. In the entire court, the eldest princess is the only person loyal to you. What does he want to do? Thinking. He seemed to remember something. Damn it, he originally came here to ask for guilt, and wanted the guy who slept with his daughter to explain clearly why he wanted to destroy her daughter's family, but he didn't expect that Tama was bypassed. Return to Jinho Mansion. Before Shen Jian contacted the eldest Princess Milan had already appeared in his study. "Master Shen is so grand and impressive, even if you hide your face, you can still make such a big fuss. But I heard that you flirted with someone else's wife at the birthday banquet in front of someone else's minister." Princess Milan's voice was still cold, but there was still a hint of amusement in it. Although she was the reason why Shen Jian was able to enter the Jinho mansion, and she had thought about this possibility, she was still a little irritable when she heard the news. Shen Jian glanced at her. "Know how to change the subject." Then he said, "Your Highness, I plan to take action against the third prince now, eliminate him first, and give this lifeless Jing kingdom a little surprise from humans." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 730. Shen Jian's words struck the eldest princess's mind like an earth-shattering shock. Eliminate the third prince? For the first time, Princess Milan felt that Shen Jian was too radical. It is not easy to eliminate a popular prince who is the heir apparent. Not to mention her, even the prince currently sitting in the position of heir apparent cannot do this. Unless you kill someone directly. But the consequences of this are too serious. Seriously, no one has dared to start this thing so far. Just like the 13th prince, everyone knows that this 10-year-old prince has the most orthodox qualifications and is one of the contestants to win the throne. However, at the same time, because he is still young, he has not accumulated any useful knowledge at all, so he can only relying on mother's family for support. Not to mention the third prince, the prince and his ilk, even other princes who had no hope of seizing the throne, were stronger than the 13th prince in terms of background. If he wanted to kill someone, the 13th prince wouldn't have the resources to resist. But the 13th prince is still alive and well, no one dares to start this. That's the rule. Unless it was absolutely necessary, unless they had to kill the fish and defeat the net, the possibility of directly killing the prince was not within their scope of consideration. Master Shen, I know you are disappointed with the royal family, but I hope you will restrain this impulse. If you start this today, the battle for the right to inherit the throne will only become more and more cruel in the future, which is very detrimental to the stability of the Qing kingdom. Princess Milan dissuaded her. Shen Jian was startled, then laughed, and said, "What are you thinking about? I don't want to see a disintegrated Qing kingdom. I mean, I found the reason for the third prince." Handle. Shen Jian nodded. Tell the fox fairy everything he saw and what he saw and gained when he just attended the birthday banquet. Moment. The eldest princess looked up, with a strange color in her water-cut autumn eyes. He is embezzling Kingguo's resources, transporting weapons, cultivating ghost bandits, and secretly arming himself. He is rebelling. No, This is probably the armed force the third prince has cultivated to deal with the prince, to increase his hopes of seizing the throne, but what he did is undoubtedly a rebellion, and he also joined forces with the Ministry of Industry, one of the 6 ministries. This has touched the sensitive nerves of an emperor. Once exposed, he will definitely be finished. Princess Milan was silently thinking about something, her eyes full of emotion. It's not that he lamented that the third prince dared to be so bold, but that Shen Jian was able to guess from such clues that the third prince secretly colluded with the Ministry of Industry to secretly transport Qing's resources to cultivate his own armed forces. Such insight is inconsistent with Shen Jian's high profile and reckless behavior. It seems it was excessive strength that gave this man absolute self-confidence, making him too lazy to consider a more secure approach instead of simply being reckless and not considering the consequences. Think of this. She had a higher opinion of Shen Jian. What are you going to do? The eldest princess asked. Break in and expose everything. Shen Jian grinned. This is the simplest and fastest way. Otherwise, any gentle or tough methods would not be able to penetrate deeply into the third prince's base. After all, the third prince is not a fool either. It is impossible to let others take control of yourself. It seems that I can't stop you. In that case, leave it to me to investigate the Ministry of Industry. It is impossible for such a large-scale transportation to leave no flaws at all. It's just that no one is paying attention. Wait. If you send the news back, I should be almost there. The eldest princess has a clear division of labor. Shen Jian was responsible for exposing the matter and lighting the fuse, while she was responsible for collecting evidence of corruption and conspiracy between the third prince and the Ministry of Industry in the imperial city, and completely detonating the powder keg that killed the third prince. This is not the first cooperation between the two, and its significance is not as significant as the last exposure of Prince Li, but it is the first close cooperation between the two, and it is also the beginning of the Queen's development. The third prince is just the beginning. Discussed matters. Shen Jian set off directly without hesitation. The little fox fairy crawled on his shoulder, and the 6 foxtails behind him kept touching Shen Jian's face. Human, I just saw that the black luck on the eldest princess has dissipated a bit. There is a faint purple halo flashing in the darkness, but it is very unstable and looming. Most of the time it is dark. Shen Jian looked as usual. Changing the current deeds will affect the future. If the third prince is eliminated, there will naturally be fewer candidates for the throne, and the eldest princess will receive more attention. The horoscope has not yet been written. I have seen people with purple luck die unexpectedly many times before. Many of those people are more loved here than your eldest princess. The fox fairy pouted. He was not optimistic and said, moreover, even if the 13th prince sat on the throne in the future, he would still die in a short period of time. If you can't solve that problem, it will just be another person who dies. Listen. Shen Jian said nothing. He could basically tell that the source of this death came from Emperor Qing. He didn't know why Emperor Qing killed the new emperor after abdicating the throne, but he knew that Emperor Qing's ultimate purpose was probably to destroy the Qing kingdom. As for why he went to so much trouble instead of taking action personally and using his world-destroying ghost god power to directly destroy it, Shen Jian also had some clues. It's just not verified. So far, there are 3 known facts. 1. Emperor Qing wanted to destroy the Qing kingdom, and the reason was suspected of wanting to be promoted to the level of world-destroying ghosts and gods. 2. Before the Qing kingdom was destroyed, Emperor Qing wanted to make one last profit, and that was to use the method of blood sacrifice to soul pills to sacrifice blood to major cities. 3. For some reason, Emperor Qing could not take action on his own, nor could he destroy the country by himself. He could only gradually reduce the power of Qing state so that the people no longer trust Qing state and the national power was greatly reduced. Once you know these 3 points, the rest will be easier to handle. He could roughly guess that the reason why Emperor Qing couldn't take action was because he was once the master of Luo Fengtian and bound the authority of Zhou Yintian Palace. Even if he is not now, this brand is still there, let alone, he was still the emperor of Qing state and held some authority in his hands. In this situation, even if he wanted to destroy this place of Luo Fengtian himself would not agree. Thoughts are spinning. The chat interface responded. After nearly 2 weeks, players finally started leaving messages here. Yongxing at all members, please provide a free message. The first stage of the side mission is to escape from death row, the second stage is to select the lineup, and the third stage is to cultivate a good relationship with the prince, which requires at least 50 points. Yongxing, we chose the lineup of the 3 princes based on our secret observations in the past few days. We found that the power of the 3 princes on the surface is not all, and there are still huge remaining trump cards. Maybe not long after, they will be against the prince get angry. Yongxing, if you want to join the 3rd prince's camp, you can sign up with me and reveal a little bit of information. Some of us have a supernatural thing that can increase our favorability at once with our efforts. Our favorability with the 3rd prince has already increased after reaching 30 points or more. Everyone should understand what 30 points of favor means. We dare not say anything else, but if you join the 3rd prince lineup, we will not let you perform a fatal mission. As soon as the news came out, the expressions of each of the 10 players who were still on death row waiting for an opportunity changed. The information about side missions should not be false. The 3-stage side missions are also very consistent with the progression of the main mission. But the key 3rd stage branch is to reach 50 points of favorability with the selected prince. It's so hard. It's as difficult as climbing to heaven. Role-playing flow is a game mode that will appear in dungeons with 3 stars or above. In this mode, the favorability with the NPC is the key to completing the mission. Under normal circumstances, 50 points of favorability is enough to clear the instance. In a 5-star dungeon, 50 points of favorability is actually a prerequisite and the basis for not being liquidated in the future. Certainly. After all, it was a 5-star dungeon, and the difficulty was still within their acceptable range. But what they didn't expect was that another group of players who had escaped from death row had already established more than 30 points of goodwill with the 3rd prince. This good impression is already at the friendly stage. Mad. Those people are so lucky that they happen to have something magical that can increase their favorability. This is simply pie in the sky. It's so awesome. This is no longer a small step ahead, this is a new stage that must be entered. The faces of all the players on death row, especially the sinister man with the ID of Sky Snake, were filled with gloom. He admitted that he was a man of dark ideas. If he were the opponent, after his favorability reached a certain level, he would definitely order the 3rd prince's men to squat outside the death row and kill them all when they came out. In this way, competitors can be permanently reduced. He didn't know whether this group of people would do this, but now, their lives were indeed in the hands of others. If you don't get out of death row, the opponent's advantage will become greater and greater. By then, there were only 2 roads waiting for him. Join the 3rd prince or die. Ken. He didn't think the 3rd prince had any chance of winning. What the hell, something like this happened. The player with the ID of Sky Snake couldn't help but curse secretly. The rest of the players watched this happen. They also had some thoughts. For a while, the player community was in an uproar. The other side, Shen Jian, was equally interested. After such a long time, a player other than him finally came into contact with the lineups of other princes. And he is actually the 3rd prince. It's fate. He finally saw that the player group did not reach a consensus. Some people selected the 3rd prince lineup, but there were still some who were in a wait-and-see state for the time being. This player with the ID Yongxin was recruiting these people. He recalled. The player whose ID is Yongxin is a young man who looks to be in his early 30s. He is wearing a tattered shroud. He has a game level of 56 and is one of the top ghost controllers in the Dragon Kingdom. It seems that he should be the leading player in the group of players joining the Third Prince's lineup. His pride and arrogance can also be seen from his speech on the chat interface. 2. He did have the pride to be the first to achieve such a result in the dungeon before a group of players with a higher level than him. This proves that he is more reliable than 5-star players. It's normal to be proud. At this time, another piece of news caught his attention. It's still the same player as before. Yongxing at King Yama, Yama, you should still have a headache on how to improve your favorability. You are a human being and a male. It is impossible for you to have a good relationship with the eldest daughter of the emperor once you don't for the sake of profit. Your good impression is not enough for the eldest daughter of the emperor to be open-minded. Yongxing, it's different here. The third prince is very interested in you. He said that you don't need to rebel, you just need to secretly pass back the information about the eldest daughter of the emperor when necessary. He will also let you pass on false news. Apart from that, you are not in any danger and can still gain the friendship of the third prince. Look at the content of this private message. Shen Jian's eyes suddenly became strange. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Bulletin Chigua. Chapter 731. Looking at the chat in front of him, Shen Jian's expression became strange unconsciously. He didn't expect that this player actually planned to instigate him and move out of the third prince. Did he tell the third prince about adding him to the eldest princess's lineup? Thinking. Su Shi saw that Shen Jian didn't respond, so the other party sent another paragraph. Yongxing at King Yama, Yama, you are a 5-star dungeon and one of the few big shots in the Dragon Kingdom. I also know that you have an excellent reputation, but this is a thriller game dungeon, and we have different lineups. I can't let you cause trouble in the lineup of the eldest daughter of the emperor. Even if the eldest daughter of the emperor has no hope of winning the throne, I still want to eliminate you as a threat. Yongxing, I believe you have also seen that your only two choices now are to continue on the dark road and wait to be dealt with, or to rebel and secretly seek refuge with the third prince to deliver valuable information to us. Yongxing, I can assure you that when the time is right, the third prince will eliminate the eldest daughter of the emperor first. At that time, as a secret guard, you can automatically be incorporated into the third prince's lineup. Although the main mission will fail, but at least one life was saved. Dragon Kingdom now has several 5-star players, and I don't want you all to lose here. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. When they are competitors, it is not uncommon for players to harm each other. It can even be said to be extremely common. This phenomenon occurs in players ranging from 4 and 5-star players to 1-star players. But this was also the first time he had seen someone relying on a dungeon NPC to cheat. Especially, it involves him. The meaning of these words is that he has taken control of the whole place. If you don't want to die, just listen to him. The corners of Shen Jian's mouth curled up in amusement. He glanced ahead. A towering city came into view. Jade City. This is one of the 12 main cities in the Qing Kingdom. It has a larger population than Chuanjiao City, a broader market, and a very prosperous economy. The prince's secret base, Hutu Mountain, is located on the outskirts of the city. Its location is inconspicuous and it is not blocked from the official road. Although it is a gangster den, it actually has very frequent exchanges with Jade City. Yongxing, Yan Luo, I know you can see it, but I still advise you not to have your own way, otherwise you will regret it. Glancing at the chat interface again, Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. Ignore these harassing private messages. Soon. Based on the address, Shen Jian came to Hutu Mountain in the suburbs. A mountain range stretches for 30,000 miles. From a distance, it looks like a tiger's head. Looking here, Shen Jian recalled the information collected by the eldest princess in his mind. According to the description of the locals, Hutu Mountain is indeed a bandit den. There lives a group of bandits who do all kinds of evil and call themselves the Chixiao sect. The Chixiao sect unified the ghost bandits in Jade City and became a local hegemon. They were not only famous in Hoodoo Mountain, but also had their branches in Jade City. The public order relies on the local city lord, and the underground order relies on the Chixiao sect. This is the most common response from local people to Chixiao cult. As for why the city lord of Jade City did not destroy it, the official statement is that the terrain of Hoodoo Mountain is complex and is not conducive to mountain searching. In addition, the leader of Chixiao sect is a ghost and god, so Jade City needs to be carefully prepared. And this preparation takes 3 years. Now, everyone in Jade City knew that the local city lord was colluding with these ghost robbers, so they turned a blind eye. These are the most detailed information that the eldest princess can collect in a short time. There is no mention of the third prince in it. If he hadn't known it in advance, who would have imagined that the third prince far away in the imperial city was the one behind the Chixiao sect? Even the ghost-level leader Chixiao obeyed the instructions of the third prince to a certain extent. Even if he relies on the reputation of the royal family, the third prince can be regarded as a dragon and a phoenix among ghosts. If he was allowed to develop steadily, he might actually be able to compete with the prince. With these thoughts, Shen Jian quickly arrived at the foot of the mountain. Look up. The entire Hoodoo Mountain was shrouded in a ghost realm. The only entrance is an uphill road at the foot of the mountain. See this. Shen Jian walked up without hesitation. They saw a rough-dressed ghost bandit digging for something at the foot of the mountain. There are also bulges formed by potholes everywhere. Shen Jian's eyes lit up. The guide is here, right? Then, Shen's body moved. He came directly behind the digger, put a hand on his back, and approached him with curiosity, asking, "Brother, what are you digging for?" Digger. Hearing the sound and seeing the hand on his body, he suddenly jumped up in fear, and the hair on his body stood up. Damn it! What dirty thing is approaching him? Although he was digging a hole, he was still a ghost king, and he didn't know how someone could approach him. Where did this horse riding come from? Apiao Buletin Cheng. At once, his head turned 180 degrees. He looked behind him. He saw a young man with black hair and black eyes looking at him with a kind face. His dark eyes were like deep darkness. Just looking at him gave people an unimaginable heart palpitation. Certainly. This is not the key. The key is, he really doesn't know this person. The pit digger was a little stunned. A honey-colored face. No. Who are you riding on? Even though I don't know you, you still call me close and call me buddy? I thought it was some brother calling me. You and I are pretending to be familiar with each other. At this time, there are 10,000 words in his heart that he wants to say. He looked evil and said, "Who are you? It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is, did you just want to commit suicide? I think this pit is just big enough to bury you alone. Could it be that you can't think about it and want to bury yourself alive?" Shen Jian said with a smile. It was as if he didn't notice the other party's increasingly ugly expression. Digger? He was slightly startled. He glanced at the pit in the ground, and then at the bloody shovel in his hand. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. God buried myself alive. What the hell are you talking about? I dug a hole and waited for someone to bring the body to bury. Who would bury themselves? They are crazy. Think of this. The digger came to his senses. Did this man think that he wanted to commit suicide when he saw that there was no body around him? And he dared to run to the foot of their Chixiao Sex mountain. There was no fear in his eyes except excitement. It seemed that he didn't know where Hoodoo Mountain was. In other words, this was an alien ghost. The eyes of the pit digger are wandering. The two ghost eyes are covered with green silk threads. An outsider, This is one of the best businesses in Hoodishan. If you grab one, you can contact multiple family members in other places through this one, all at once. Instead of being like the people of Jade City, as soon as they heard that they were coming to Hudu Mountain to redeem people, they knew that Rubaiyazai would beat the dog and he would never come back. This is a big customer. Then the trap digger rubbed his hands and blocked Shen Jian's retreat without leaving any trace. At the same time, he changed the subject and said, "Don't talk about me yet. You are from outside. What are you doing here? Maybe I can help." He was very enthusiastic. "I would like to invite Shen Jian to the mountain for a talk." After all, he felt that Shen Jian was probably not simple. It's hard for him to be a ghost king. Really? Of course, Jade City is the most hospitable. If you come to Hoodishan, I will naturally entertain you. The pit digger walked in front, a ghostly face covered in green threads and a sinister smile. People from out of town are easy to deceive. 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times, I cheated my way up the mountain. Since you said so, I can't shirk it. In fact, I'm here to rob you. I think you're about to commit suicide. I want to dig up your coffin later and take away valuable things. This way you don't have to worry about tomb robbers visiting and destroying your burial place." Shen Jian said shyly. Somewhat embarrassed. "Digger?" His steps suddenly stopped. Everyone was confused. He turned to look at Shen Jian with a question mark on his face. "Damn it! Robbery. The reason why you came to ask me if I want to die is because you want to take away my things. You are a dog. Tomb robbers have to wait for the owner of the tomb to die first. Isn't it too disrespectful for you to attack me right in front of me, a living ghost? How the hell do you have the nerve to speak? You are so shy." The pit digger can't stand it any longer. He looked at Shen Jian with an inexplicable expression. After a while, he smiled strangely and said, "Ha ha ha, this is the first time I have seen someone dare to rob me in Hoodishan. Brother, you are just asking for money rather than your life." "That's wrong," Shen Jian corrected. "Life, actually, I also want to grab it, but you kindly reminded me that I will give you a 50% discount later and let you keep an eye as a souvenir. Well, I'm treating you well, right? If we meet again in the next life, I will snatch you away and renew our fate with you." Digger. God, why don't you try to snatch me away in the next life? Just catch me picking the leeks by myself, right? At this time, he couldn't pretend anymore. He must make this man deeply understand what it means to regret for the rest of his life once he enters Hudu Mountain. Immediately, he shouted, "Brothers, if you have any fat sheep, come out." The words fell. Less than 5 seconds. A ghost bandit wearing only animal skins keeps appearing at the foot of the mountain. Everyone looked at Shen Jian with green eyes. A pair of ghost eyes full of cruel, excited, and violent expressions. The pit digger also smiled ferociously. "Brother, are you surprised? Every outsider ghost who is tricked into Hoodishan will show a look of despair and powerlessness when facing the gangsters all over the mountain. No one is exempt. Neither does this man. He wants to finish. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace." Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 732. On Hudu Mountain. One after another, there are terrifying figures, pale skin, twisted limbs, rough and bold clothing, cruel and violent eyes, as if they want to choose people to devour, full of cold expressions. Depressed, cold, resentful, and joking. This is the main theme here. Looking around, the mountains are filled with ghost bandits. In pits, on treetops, in jungles, in dark places. A large number of ghost bandits came out. At a glance, the number was at least 500. Just looking at it makes people shudder and make their hair stand on end. Although the sun is shining brightly, the person involved here can only feel his hands and feet are cold and falling into the abyss. In the eyes of the trap digger, Shen Jian's reaction should be like this. Like other foreign ghosts who were deceived into this place, after seeing the ghost bandits all over the mountains and plains, his hands and feet softened and he fell to his knees. No matter how strong his psychological quality was, he would have turned pale and fled in a panic. However, what he saw was that Shen Jian also had an inexplicable expression. That look is mixed with excitement, weirdness, conation and other emotions. The best way to describe it is to see the hunter's heart but give up. The digger was a little confused. No. Are you so excited? It's been like this for a while, but you still can't see the form clearly? Did you really think you were being robbed when you stepped on the horse? Understand, robbery is the exclusive domain of us gangsters. When will it be your turn, an unknown person, to rob our reputation? Maybe he didn't see the scene he wanted to see, so the pit digger's grimace turned gloomy, and the corners of his mouth rose up with sadness. Haha, brother, don't you want my life? Come and get it, just I'm afraid you can't take it away. Seeing this, the other ghost bandits also showed wild and joking smiles. Killing our lives in Hudishan? Where did this country bumpkin come from? Don't you know this is the territory of our Chixiao sect? The skin is tender, and there is no ghost smell about him. I almost thought he was a human being. Looking at it like this, he must be a big shot in the imperial capital. That's why there are ghosts like this in the imperial capital that are almost like humans. Hey, imperial capital, sooner or later we will overthrow that dog emperor and become a general. A group of ghost bandits shouted carelessly. He didn't care about Shen Jian's presence at all, and directly shouted the insulting name Dog Emperor in his mouth, showing the image of a desperado who was not afraid of anything. While talking, they gathered around. In fact, something like today would happen every few days. As long as an outsider stepped into Huda Mountain, he would basically be sentenced to death, so there was no need for so many people to threaten him. But Shen Jian was too calm. No. It should be said that it is too arrogant. On their territory, facing more than 500 ghost bandits, they refused to beg for mercy, surrender, or make promises. Instead, they looked eager to give them a try, as if they didn't take them seriously at all. Can they tolerate this? They wanted to see how tough this man could be. Not to mention anything else, they have various ways to let Shen Jian experience pain that Guizheng Hung has never experienced before without shutting down. The other side. Looking at the mountain of ghost bandits, Shen Jian smiled from the bottom of his heart. The smile was a little bit catchy. Because the moment he stepped into Huda Mountain, he felt the dragon's energy. Extremely strong dragon energy fluctuations spread across the entire mountain range. This requires at least 3 dragon energies to be possible. Normally, this is impossible. After all, unless the dragon energy host also finds other dragon energy, with only 1 dragon energy, it is impossible for the blessings of the dragon energy to benefit a mountain range that stretches 30,000 miles. But the dragon energy host here did it. The reason for this situation, Shen Jian guessed, is that the dragon energy host here has started to compete for hegemony and is snatching the national destiny that belongs to the Qing kingdom. Because of this, the dragon energy host here only has 1 dragon energy, but it produces at least 3 times the effect. In other words, he only needs to drain the dragon energy from this place, plus the one from the royal family, and there is a high probability that he can collect 9 dragon energy targets. When the 9 dragon chi merge into 1, the complete authority of Zhouju Yintian Palace is complete. Even if he lacks the one in the hands of the glorious ghosts and gods, it will not delay him from unlocking the Azura path, one of the 6 paths of reincarnation. For Shen Jian, this is a top priority. Far more important than anything else. How could Shen Jian not be excited about such a huge surprise? His eyes were filled with emotion. Among the 9 dragon chi, he collected 5 of the ownerless dragon chi. Among the remaining 4 dragon auras, except for one from the royal family of the Qing kingdom and the one that the glorious ghosts and gods are looking for, the other 2 have obvious owners. Only the ghost with double eyes in Olympus is obviously still in the process of becoming successful. Although the protagonist controlled by world-weary ghosts and gods has reached the middle stage of development, because he is the Truman who was put into the breeding farm for observation, he cannot start the so-called hegemony route at all. Only the host of dragon energy here has the right time, place, people, and everything. Tianqi, Emperor Qing allowed the Qing kingdom to fall into chaos. Geographical advantage, far away from the center of the imperial capital, secretly colluding with Jade City. Renhe, the third prince, takes a stake in the company and continuously transports the resources generated by the Ministry of Industry to Hutu Mountain to provide necessary help. Under such a situation, the Dragon Chi host took Hutu Mountain as the center, penetrated into the Jade City, and led to cities in all directions. It bribed soldiers and horses, prepared supplies, and strengthened its strength. It was only waiting for the Qing kingdom to be in the most chaotic situation before raising troops to divide the Qing kingdom. The more serious the loss of Qing's national luck, the greater the luck the Dragon Chi host can gain. If we can occupy 1/3 of the Qing kingdom's territory, it will be considered a success. Even the third prince may not be able to check and balance the other party, but will suffer a backlash. Think of this. Shen Jian had to admit that the dragon energy host here was really a damn talent. But now, these are all his thoughts are spinning. Shen Jian raised his eyes. Looking at the ghost bandit in front of him with his teeth and claws waving, his lips and tongue were slightly open, and the sounds of ghosts and gods were wafting out. "Abi, come out and let these people see what the Abi hell is." The words fell. The sky is shaking. A whirlpool of the underworld bloomed in the void. Immediately afterwards, a shadow appeared. That's a woman. More than 100 meters high. Like a holographic projection in front of everyone. She was wearing bright red clothes, and a surging river of blood was surging in her eyes. As she raised her hand, the sticks behind her roared, intertwining into a long bloody sword composed of blood rivers. Her expression was lifeless and profound, with a terrifying menace that overlooked all ghosts. Just by looking directly, you can feel the fear coming from the depths of your soul. The ghost bandits all over the mountains and plains were frightened. Damn it! What the hell is this? Don't be so exaggerated. We just invited a few of our accomplices to come and hold the place. What did you invite? I'm just going big, but it's better for you to just use foreign aid. The face of the digger turned green. Scalp numbness. Gan. Can there be less tricks and more sincerity? Can this world get any better? A foreign ghost who casually deceived him into the mountains unexpectedly invited such terrifying foreign aid. Although he can't see the level of terror in this woman, he can compare it. There are 10 leaders in the Chixiao gang in Hutu Mountain. Starting from the top 3, all of them are ghost-level big shots. But even when facing the third master, he did not feel such a terrifying threat. The turbulent river Styx in the whirlpool gives people a scene where the river Styx is not flowing, like a deep abyss or prison. Even if ghosts and gods step into it, I'm afraid they won't be able to come back. Damn it! What is going on with this man? How could he invite such a terrifying existence? How could he have such a big face? At this time, the ghost bandits all over the mountains and plains were panicked. In my heart, I have already scolded all the 18 generations of ghost diggers. Damn buddy, you are truly worthy of your name. You just dig holes for your brothers, right? We humming remember you. If you don't die today, you will be MMP in the future. In such panic, All the ghost bandits fled. Flee to the depths of Hutu Mountain. They are peripheral members. They have just joined and are still in the stage of showing their loyalty. The only ones who can save them right now are the 10 heads. Oh no, it should be the big head. See this. Shen Jian smiled strangely and said, "Abi, it's your first time to be born, so make a big fuss." The words of ghosts and gods echoed. The woman in the sticks reacted immediately. Her wrist flicked, and the blood sword in her hand instantly turned into countless bloody phantoms. At the same time, streaks of bloody sword light, carrying a soul-stirring shimmer, seemed to draw all the light in the world and pour down. Just like the rise and fall of the tide, the sea and sky line, the space with a radius of thousands of miles is covered by the Styx River, with clear lines. The Styx River surges, the shimmering light, the blood color is deep, forming a 1,000-meter-long and horizontal net woven by the dazzling sword light. The next second, the blood was dripping, like a rain of blood. It shrouded the ghost bandits who were fleeing in all directions. Tisk tisk tisk. As the woman pointed her sword, the desperate sword energy and blood rain was like a real raging Styx, swallowing up everything within the designated range, including rocks, treetops, weapons, and even ghosts, all at this moment nothing left. The whole process lasted less than 3 seconds. There was no violent movement, and there was no movement in the surrounding air. Just like this, more than 500 ghost bandits and the land covering a radius of 1,000 meters disappeared. Only a shocking deep pit was left, at least 50 centimeters deep into the ground. Watch it all. Shen Jian looked very satisfied. The Great Abi Hell is the Great Hell under the control of King Ping, the Lord of the 9th Hall of Yama of the 10 Halls. Each of the 10 kings of Hell has his own special hell. This is true for King Chu Jiang's Undersea Hell, King Guan's Blood Pool Hell, and King Ping's Abi Hell. However, unlike the other 9 Hell Kings, there is something most unique about King Ping's Abi Hell. That's the manager. That is Abi. She is the manager of the Great Hell under King Ping, helping the King of Hell to manage the exclusive Great Hell, and she is part of the Abi Great Hell. It can be said, she alone represents the Abi Hell. The river Styx has no limit, it is like a chasm and prison, and its divine power is like the sea. This is Abi. Both a manager and a guardian. In layman's terms, he is the general in front of King Ping. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the King of Hell of the 10th Palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigua. Chapter 733. Player, King Yama. Level 60. Identity, King of Equality. Ability, Styx has no limit, the contract of equality. The Lord of the 9th Hall of the 10 Halls of Hell, King Ping, is one of the last 2 halls of hell that Shen Jian unlocked after the supernatural incident in Nanlin province. Like other kings of hell, King Ping also has 2 abilities. One is the priesthood of the King of Hell, and the other is derived abilities. Styx Wudu is the derivative ability. Ability, Summon Abi. Normally speaking, the personal hell of the King of Hell is something that is owned by oneself after inheriting the status of the King of Hell. This is the case with the Blood Pool Hell of King Wu Guan. Summoning the Great Blood Pool Hell is not a derivative ability. Summoning the legendary Eternal Fire of Hell is the derivative of the Rogue King. However, King Ping is different. Summoning Abi Hell is a derivative of the King of Ping. The reason why? It's because of the manager of Abi Hell Abi. She is an extremely special being. It is both the Great Hell itself and a separate entity. He is the executive in the deepest part of the 8 hells. King Ping himself has no frontal combat capability, or more accurately, no sustained combat capability. To this end, ABI became the guardian of King Ping Ping. To put it simply, the derived ability of Styx Wudu is to be beaten by ABI. Just now. It was also the first time that Shen Jian called out ABI. The strength of this guardian was fully affirmed. ABI, come here. Shen Jian opened his mouth, and his voice echoed in the mountains. The phantom woman high in the sky narrowed her eyes. The originally illusory figure continued to shrink and solidify. Immediately afterwards, a physical woman emerged from the vortex of the Styx. The bright red clothes were like watering with blood, and a red streamer hung from his waist, hanging to the ground and dragging along the ground, leaving scarlet blood stains, giving people a chilling feeling like Ashura from hell. Especially a pair of eyes, they are not like the black pupils of a normal person, nor are they like the whites of a ghost's eyes, which are red, but the river of Styx flows in the eyes. They don't look like eyes at all, but two small eyes that look like eyeballs. The river Styx is swimming. There is no doubt that such eyes are rare in ancient times. Once you've seen it once, I'm afraid you won't forget it. The only pity is that the deathly, profound, and desolate look ruins the beauty of her body. No matter who sees her, they will ignore her characteristics and describe her as Shura, Rakshasa. Hey, ABI, can you smile? Shen Jian sighed. This is the first time he has summoned the ABI hell, but it is not the first time he has met the Shura executive in the deepest part of the 8 hells. During the restoration work in Nanlin province, he occasionally entered the Styx River and talked with ABI. Unfortunately, there was no progress. Abai tilted his head, indifferent. The bloody sword in his hand pointed at the depths of the mountain range, issuing a silent warning, as if to say, if you dare to step into the safe zone of Lord Yan again, you will die. See this. Shen Jian could only narrow his eyes and then looked into the distance. The other side. Hudishan was alarmed. The news caused by the killing of more than 500 ghost bandits cannot be concealed at all. In an instant, a large number of well-equipped ghost bandits emerged from the depths. Compared with the previous batch, this group of ghost bandits wear special ghost weapons, and even the weapons in their hands exude special supernatural fluctuations. There is no doubt that these are ghost weapons of excellent quality. And there are thousands of people who own this kind of ghost weapon. Almost every fierce ghost who came out from the depths of the mountains was wearing a set of well-made ghost weapons, which fully demonstrated the word rich and powerful. Shen Jian saw it. His eyes sparkled. He knew the evidence was found. A group of ghost bandits who robbed homes and occupied the mountains as kings, even if they secretly colluded with Jade City, could not create so many ghost weapons to arm themselves. Not only because Jade City cannot afford such a huge weapon, but also because, except for the imperial capital, there is no place to build ghost weapons on a large scale. This is the restriction of the Qingguo royal family. On the surface, no one dares to violate it. And the only place that can create such a huge military supply is the Ministry of Industry. He didn't need to do anything. He only needed to expose these people, and the civil and military ministers of the imperial court would naturally understand that someone was secretly colluding with the Ministry of Works to resell supplies. This is a capital crime. It's not as simple as being thrown into death row, but after the evil ghost dies, it is suppressed to a special burial place so that it will never be able to recover supernaturally. This is the most severe punishment in Qingguo, and it is undoubtedly as good as death. Even if the third prince could escape the death penalty, he would never be able to compete for the crown prince or even the throne in this life. Think of this. The excitement in Shen Jian's eyes did not decrease but increased. Thinking. More ghosts walked out. At the head are 10 figures. Above all the top ghost kings. 5 top ghost kings, 2 infinitely close to ghosts and gods, and 3 ghosts and gods. Such a lineup has reached the specifications of a 6-star copy to a certain extent. It is really surprising that the third prince has such a foundation. Even Shen Jian couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Because this has surpassed the living power controlled by the eldest princess and the prince, especially the three ghosts and gods, no matter where such a lineup is placed, it will be a supernatural overlord-level existence. Even if the third prince cannot fully control it, as long as he can mobilize half of it, he can still fight against the prince. Certainly. This refers to personal armed forces. If we look at it as a whole, the third prince is still not enough. Not to mention anything else, today's 6 ministers are all ghosts and gods, and they are the best among ghosts and gods. Most of them are ghosts and gods above the first rank of the imperial court. There are even more ghosts and gods among generals. After all, there were at least more than 20 ghosts and gods in the entire Qingguo court. Most of these powers are divided between the prince and the eldest princess. If they use their secrets, the two of them can send out twice as many ghosts and gods as the third prince. Thinking. A deep voice sounded. Who are you? Shen Jian looked over. His eyes lit up. The speaker was a 3-meter-tall giant skeleton with long, narrow fingers and sharp features. He didn't have much flesh and blood on his body, and only his limbs were covered with some skin. It looked like human skin and flesh were glued on top. The level of terror is infinitely close to the world-destroying ghosts and gods. In Shen Jian's perception, his yin qi value reached at least 270,000. He is the one with the highest yin qi value among the groups of ghosts and gods that Shen Jian has seen. And this corpse ghost has a very strong dragon energy reaction. There is no doubt that this is the dragon energy host. He is also the head of Chixiao sect in Hutu Mountain. A son of luck who is very lucky and has the power to dominate the Yintian palace of Zhou. He couldn't wait to recycle the dragon energy from this person. Shen Jian had a strange smile on his face. Meteors fell in front of these people like the moon. Abai held a bloody sword and stood by his side. His stern gaze swept over him, making all the evil ghosts fear him and turn pale. Because the aura on this woman's body is too terrifying. More terrifying than ghosts and gods. Just by looking at those eyes with the surging river of sticks, they felt as if they were being sucked into it and sinking in the sea of sticks. This is due to the impact caused by the excessive supernatural gap. Just like a sheep meets a wolf, or a rabbit meets a Tyrannosaurus rex, just standing in front of each other gives you a sense of fear as if you are facing a formidable enemy. Are you too arrogant? What's the use of relying on women to show off your authority? The corpse ghost said with a smile. His words were full of coldness. He attacked Hutu Mountain, killed his men, and then stood arrogantly in front of them. How arrogant! What's the difference between riding a horse and forcing someone's door, killing people in front of his master, and showing off his power in front of him? This man must die. Not only because of the other party's attitude, but also because the secret of Hutushan was seen. These 20,000 ghost bandits wearing sophisticated ghost weapon suits are the core secret of the entire Hutu Mountain. They must not be exposed at all, otherwise it will lead to unavoidable disasters. As the head of the family, all this is naturally not what he wants to see. Therefore, for the current plan, no matter how difficult it is to gnaw on Shen Jian's bone, he must gnaw it down, gnaw it clean, and eliminate all risks. Hear the words. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. What's your status and what's my status? I can rely on women, can you? Do you have the capital to make a living? Ha, I can. Corpse ghost. Group of ghosts. They are messy. Looking at Shen Jian with a proud tone, his heart went crazy. Are you so confident in eating soft food these days? Where is your dignity as a man? You are the first to eat soft food so arrogantly. The corpse ghosts and gods were also stunned. Subconsciously he touched his skeletal face, and then looked at Shen Jian's face that even he looked ashamed of. Mad. My mentality is a little bit broken. It didn't matter if he was laughed at, he could just try to catch up, but facing the gulf between their appearance, it was really hard for him to convince himself that he could surpass the other person. Then, the face of the corpse ghost became even more distorted. "Second child, third child, you go ahead and hold that woman down, the others will tear this guy's mouth apart," he said sadly. The second and third masters of Hoodoo Mountain are also ghost-level beings. I dare not say that there is no problem in killing the woman with the blood sword and holding it off for a few minutes. The remaining 7 heads are besieging Shenjian. He still didn't believe it. How could a pretty boy with a low self-confidence resist the supernatural attacks of 7 top ghost kings? "I'm waiting to take off your face. See it?" Shenjian looked as usual. There was a hint of disdain in his eyes. A look that says, "You are proud to eat soft food." Then, he took out the scalpel from his body. The corpse ghost was startled, and the sarcasm in his eyes deepened. It was him who was so angry. To actually confront such a clown. If you want to deal with 7 top ghost kings with an ordinary ghost weapon, you are daydreaming. What he should pay attention to now is the woman who exudes an ominous aura, not a clown who specializes in eating soft food. Just thinking about it, he suddenly saw that after Shenjian took out the scalpel, he directly cut his palm. But maybe there was no force, or maybe the scalpel was not strong enough to cut through the skin. Anyway, there was only a red mark left on the wrist, and a little bloodshot could barely be seen. At the same time, Shenjian grinned and said in a faint tone, "How do you think my wound will appear on you?" The clerical ability of the King of Equality, the contract of equality. All negative effects that appear on him will appear equally on others. And will be presented as unequal persons. Others can make 10 yuan an hour, but he can make 1,000,000 an hour. Then all the impact caused by his loss of 1 hour will be equivalent to other people. He possesses the personality of 10 kings of hell, and is supernaturally invulnerable, but a scratch appears on himself, which needs to be transferred to others equally until the cost is offset. This is equality in the eyes of the King of Equality. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the King of Hell of the 10th Palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 734. At this time, the number of ghost bandits gathered in the entire Hoodoo Mountain has exceeded 10,000. These ghost troubles are completely different from the previous evil ghosts. They are well equipped, and each one wears a complete set of ghost weapons. Although their own terror level is only the red level, with the blessing of the ghost weapons, they are also an elite army that can rival the Ghost King. 10,000 soldiers, that is 10,000 Ghost Kings. This is an extremely scary number. It is not a force that the third prince can control at all. If there is any slight mistake, it will be instantly counterattacked. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is raising a tiger to cause trouble. And standing in front of this group of elite ghost bandits, the one who controls this team is the corpse ghost god who has the power to infinitely approach the world, destroying ghosts and gods. At this time, he watched Shenjian's every move in a joking manner. The same goes for the group of ghosts, with twisted and sinister smiles on their faces covered by armor. A pretty boy, holding a scalpel that wasn't even a dagger, said some strange words, and wanted to harm himself, but he didn't dare to cut his wrist because of fear. In the end, only a red scratch was left. That's all they see. This man, I'm afraid he's lost his mind and gone crazy. Did he think they would let him go if he did this? What's so special about this is not naivete, but pure stupidity, not being able to see the situation clearly. But that's just fine. If the enemy collapses before fighting, the rest will be easier to control. Think about it this way. The eyes of the ghosts were a bit more ferocious. The other side. The 7 masters who attacked also stared blankly at Shenjian's operations. They were all top ghost kings. With the 7 of them joining forces, they were confident enough to compete against the third master and the second master, who were at the level of ghosts and gods. He also showed contempt for Shen Jian's behavior of wanting to harm himself but not daring to do so. He, this coward is so protected that he doesn't even dare to cut his skin with a knife. The second generation of big shots in the imperial capital are all like this. They all act arrogant and domineering outside. But when they come to our Hutu mountain, they just cry and beg for mercy. They are worse than ordinary ghosts. G, boy, do you want me to teach you how to harm yourself? You should do this, and maybe it will make us more afraid. A top-notch ghost king with a jagged mouth raised his hand, inserted it into his temple with a grin on his face, and kept stirring. A large amount of ghost blood continued to drip down the temple, which looked extremely oozing. Hey, you lunatic, just stir. Don't make strange noises while stirring. It will scare other children. The seven heads behaved extremely relaxedly. Even though he was close, he looked like he didn't take Shen Jian seriously. Look at this. Shen Jian looked as usual. But the corners of his mouth were also grinning. There was an exploratory expression of comparative data experiment in his eyes. The next second. Laugh. In silence. The body of the sawtooth ghost with its head piercing its temple suddenly cracked. Split in half from the middle. There was no supernatural fluctuation in the whole process. Thump. Two sawtooth ghosts fell. The originally ferocious smile was frozen at this moment, the luster in his eyes was completely extinguished, and the supernatural power disappeared. In an instant, the whole place fell silent. No one knows what happened. Even the heads closest to the sawtooth ghost did not see any traces of supernatural attacks. It was as if there was an invisible and unknown existence that instantly cut it in two with a knife. Pay attention, brother, my wound is very deep. At this time, Shen Jian spoke. He looked like an old god. And he showed his wounds openly. A red mark with nothing but scratches. Ghosts? When the remaining 6 heads were confused, the one on the far left also had wounds on his body. The wound continued to spread from bottom to top, and then split the body into 2. It looked like it was cut in half by an invisible object. This moment, all the heads were panicked. His expression changed drastically. Because they still haven't figured out what this supernatural attack is about. Immediately afterwards, it's the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th. These dead leaders of the top Ghost King level were all cut in 2, and the shape of their wounds seemed to be the same as those cut by Shen Jian. Buzz. This time, the heads of the ghosts were buzzing, making a sound like thunder. They thought about it. This is a supernatural attack by that man. Judging from the effect, it seems to be something like damage transfer. This kind of supernatural thing is very useless. Because the basic condition for damage transfer is that you also suffer the same damage, otherwise the supernatural effect cannot take effect, and this supernatural effect can only be effective on a single person. Once there are more than 2 enemies, it will stop immediately. Generally speaking, such supernatural powers will only appear in some white-clothed or green-clothed level ghosts. When dealing with humans, this kind of supernatural power is unexplainable. Picking off a hand or head at random can kill a human on the spot. But when dealing with the same kind, the best result of this kind of supernatural power is to exchange 1 for 1. However, there seems to be something wrong with the damage transfer initiated by this man. How the hell did you make a group of top Ghost Kings freeze on the spot with a scratch that wasn't even a wound? A scratch on your body requires several top Ghost Kings to die on your behalf to offset the cost? Damn it! Is your face that big? Who are you? Aren't they all ghosts? Why are you so noble? At this moment, the only 2 remaining masters who were infinitely close to ghosts and gods were frightened. Because they have no idea whether the supernatural effect of the substitute death has been offset. If not, then they may not be safe. And they also didn't know that this supernatural attack had a designated range and a designated number of people. Then the two masters turned around and ran away. The next second, they understood two things. 1. The supernatural price of substitutionary death is still in effect. Second, this supernatural attack is targeted. Thump. The four-petal corpse fell to the ground. There were 7 heads when he came, but when he returned, there were 14. This scene. The whole place fell silent. The ghost bandits' eyes widened in disbelief. The lineup of 7 top ghost kings, who could rival a ghost god, were destroyed just like that. What happened? Why does this happen? What on earth is it? How does a supernatural power such as damage transfer exert the effect of killing 7 top ghost kings? All the ghost bandits were stunned. I find it ridiculous. The man only made a red scratch on his wrist, and there was no blood on the horse. It required 7 of their masters to die together to offset it? What kind of noble body is he? That's just a scratch. If he really made a wound on his body, how many top ghost kings would it take to eliminate this supernatural cost? 10. 20. 30. Grass. That's too much. You are all ghosts, how the hell are you so much nobler than us? And is this supernatural attack really over? This doubt appears in everyone's mind. Soon, this doubt has been answered. The 2 ghosts and gods who went to intercept ABI found the same wound on the body of the 3rd master at the moment when the 7 top ghost kings died. In the horrified eyes, the 3rd master also burst into pieces on the spot. No. A shrill scream sounded. The 3rd boss died with his eyes closed. He didn't understand until his death that he, a ghost and god, had to pay the price of death for scratches on a man's body. Aside. The brain of the 2nd master, who is also a ghost, is down. It was broad daylight, but his hands and feet were cold. Damn it, can this world get any better? 7 top ghost kings and 1 ghost god, if converted equally, it is equivalent to 2 ghosts and gods being killed in place of them. He couldn't imagine it. If this man cuts off one of his own hands, what kind of terrifying existence will be needed to offset the cost of death? I'm afraid even the legendary world-destroying ghost and god from Qing Kingdom can't stop him. Too old. Apparently. As the head of the family, Zhigukishin also thought of this. A skeletal face was filled with astonishment. He also felt that if Shenjian was cruel and cut off one of his arms, or dug out his own heart, then he would have to die for someone who was so close to a world-destroying ghost and god to offset the cost. In other words, this is a hell of a hedgehog. Can't move at all. Whoever moves and causes a certain amount of damage will die. If he dies, it probably won't be a problem to replace Emperor Qing, who destroys world-level ghosts and gods. Think of this. The bones of the ghosts and spirits trembled in their hearts. I feel like the situation has become more complicated. Everything here must not be exposed, otherwise even if they don't die now, they will die in the future. But dealing with Shenjian means being prepared to be killed at any time. Who can accept this? It's okay to be killed, but it would be a damn injustice if he was simply killed. Plan for today. They can only rely on the human sea tactic to forcefully consume Shenjian's supernatural powers. They don't expect to kill the opponent, but just imprison them without harming the opponent. Immediately, the corpse ghost stretched out his hand, with 5 long and narrow fingers over 2 meters long, pointed at his men. The next second, a group of ghost bandits were horrified to find that their bodies began to move uncontrollably, deforming, and then intertwined with other ghost bandits and forcibly bonded together. Master, what are you doing? Stop, it hurts, it hurts. My body was torn apart. The screams echoed through the sky. Shenjian was startled. Look away. I saw more than thousands of ghost bandits being forcibly kneaded together by an invisible hand, forming a 10-meter-tall monster with limbs and facial features crawling all over its body. This no longer belongs to the category of ghosts, but ghosts. But the effect is also very impressive. They were originally just a group of red-clad ghost bandits, but at this moment they emitted terrifying waves of yin-chi that were comparable to corpses of ghosts and gods. Although unstable and even on the verge of collapse, at this moment, this is indeed a terrifying existence that is infinitely close to a world-destroying ghost and god. It is a ghost evil formed by more than 5,000 ghost bandits. The person who maintains this 10-meter ghost body is the most loyal subordinate of the bone ghost. A bone ghost who has been brainwashed and only knows how to obey his master. His bone face is located on the face of the ghost, controlling this 10-meter ghost body. Under the instructions of the corpse ghost and god, he began to rush towards Shen Jian. He looked like he was going to tear Shen Jian into pieces. His ferocious appearance shows that he is brave and not afraid of death. Apparently, the corpse ghosts and gods intend to use this method to restrain Shen Jian's actions. Even if Shen Jian is accidentally injured in the process, he does not need to bear the supernatural price. There is no risk to him. The only loss was the loss of 5,000 elite men. Half of the foundation of Hutu Mountain was lost. It may be an exaggeration to return to before liberation, but it is almost the same. But if the current problem is not solved, Hutushan will also be destroyed. Just thinking about it? The bone ghost laughed ferociously and roared, "Kill, the ghost bandits of Hutu Mountain have nothing to fear." Guisha. The bone ghost dominates this ghost body, but the consciousness of the other 5,000 ghost bandits has not dissipated, but they can no longer control the body. They watched the bone ghost control their bodies and rush towards Shenjian, their grimaces falling into extreme panic. Not to mention green, they are all green and black. Damn it! A few dishes, so drunk. If this was really a slap, they didn't know if something happened to Shenjian, but they knew that even if Shenjian was injured, some of them would be killed instead. Whoever wants to bear such a price should bear it, but they are not willing. As early as the moment when Shenjian killed 8 heads at once, they had already felt fear in their hearts, and now they were dragged to death by the big head. The resentment in their hearts can be imagined. No one wants to be the scapegoat. Stop your horse for me. Bone ghost, you humming stop. Then it's a hedgehog. Why don't you rush into it and die? Retreat quickly, you pig teammate.